my name's Kira and I'm 24 years old and I started a business in the countryside of Japan, and I am also a graduate student studying sustainable energy at Johns Hopkins University. I am actually in the US right now after not being here for over a year, and I put up a question and answer thing on my Instagram, and I have a lot I want to catch up about because there are new rules to Japan's business manager visa. A lot of people are wondering what I'm going to be doing with these new rules. Over a year ago, I started this YouTube channel to document my life journey and all of the things I would learn on this journey to find the higher purpose of my life. And for those that know me well, you know that I love to travel, and before I started my business in Japan, I was traveling like crazy all over Asia, all over Oceania and Europe, and everything sort of accumulated into me starting this business in the countryside of Japan. Since my last long-form video on YouTube talking about all of the reasons why I started the business, which I really suggest you watch because that goes into the full story on how I got to where I am and exactly what I did to get here. But in this video, I really just want to clarify a lot of things and explain my ambitions for the future and try and see who else I might be able to connect with. Without further ado, I'm gonna find a nice place to sit and talk to you. By the way, if you are subscribing to me on YouTube and you don't follow my Instagram, that's totally fine, but I do have more activity going on there and people are asking questions and doing polls and getting full updates on everything I'm doing and how to actually book programs within my business. If you want a little extra information that's really up to date, you can find that on my Instagram or also on my website www.kirameki.earth, and that is where I'm working really hard to bring it all to life, but it is really challenging and I am not a web developer and I have had people helping me with this process, and I did my best on there, but the updates will be on Instagram in a bit of a traditional route until I figure things out as a sole proprietor for my business with no employees yet. Alright, so I've pulled up this little chair, and also this camera is so nice. I have found a little chair to sit on and I have one of my sweet dogs, Chance. And anyways, I want to catch up with everybody and I'm just gonna pretend that I'm talking right to someone I know in front of me. And we also have Lulu, who is only a year old. Excuse me in the video if you see too many dogs. They've gone inside. Now, YouTube is an interesting place, and I can't believe right now that I am just talking to the world and you're right here with me. And that leaves room for a lot of people to think they know me a lot better than I am, and you know, there's a problem in that because you only see 15% of my life. And especially with me introducing myself as just being a business owner, I think a lot of people overlook that I am a real person. And I have had a very complicated and interesting life so far. And to be able to connect to you and explain myself and be perceived in a way that is genuine to me is really important to me. And I am really grateful that I have the confidence to even come on here and say hello. Yesterday on Instagram, I asked everyone if they had anything to ask me, and I have a lot of questions. I just wanted to answer a couple things and begin by explaining why am I in America right now and am I going back to Japan? That is an important question. After over a year and a half, I am back in the States for 3 weeks, and it is a short trip and I have lots of stuff to do in the US in that short time frame. But basically, I have been in Japan working on my business. I have a hybrid master's degree program at Johns Hopkins University. We have 2 residencies in this 2-year program. It's a big reason why I chose this program over other programs. When I mentioned this on my story, I think a lot of new followers thought that I had just started my program, but I wanted to give you a better timeline of what actually happened and what I'm actually doing. I applied for this program last June, and I had applied to many schools like Columbia, Yale, Harvard, and Johns Hopkins, and I ended up choosing this program because it was so perfect for my lifestyle. By that, I mean it was a hybrid program, so I was able to do most of it online, but I have 2 mandatory week-long residencies within this 2-year program. So I'm getting a Master's of Sustainable Energy at the School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins University, and it is actually based in Washington, D.C. and not Maryland. But this program allowed me to live the best of both worlds and live in Japan, travel, as well as do this master's program that I really care about and believe in. Basically, I applied to this program last June, and it was before I returned back to Japan on the subsequent 6 months of my working holiday visa. Bear with me. When I got into this program, I really didn't think that it would be much of a hassle. I was just really excited to be part of such an amazing school and do something that's going to make me more credible for the rest of my life. I really care about education. I already finished my undergrad. I graduated high school at 17 years old and just never procrastinated, and now being 24, doing my master's a year in, I just think it's really good timing to just get school out of the way and set myself up for life. And I did my undergraduate degree in environmental studies with minors in political science and geography, and I always cared about sustainable energy, and I researched and researched how I could make a difference in the world, and the logical thing that I just kept coming back to is energy. We are in need of sustainable energy because that is one of the greatest pollutants of our earth, and if we care about climate change and we care about also technological advancement and doing better for the planet, I think naturally sustainable energy is the way to do it. When I started this program, I only had this program going on for me. I was just traveling around Japan with a working holiday visa. I was working as an au pair and taking care of a young 4-year-old boy for a couple weeks, and that was when my program started. Then I got an offer to take care of a house and some cats and koi fish for a couple months while someone was traveling as like a house sitter or cat sitter. And I moved to the countryside, which I explained in my last video, which is why I now live in Kitahiroshima, Japan. But basically, all of this is totally unrelated to the business that I started. In my master's program, we have to create a capstone project. And from the very beginning, before I started my business, I have been trying to figure out what I want to do for my capstone project related to sustainable energy. And one of the things that I'm also learning in this major is it's extremely complicated to solve the problems of the world. And the one thing that I thought I wanted to do for a very long time was work in the United Nations. And working in the UN meant to me actually helping humanity as directly as I could. And my father worked in the United Nations, so I had that model as a child. But the more I researched about the United Nations and all of these things, it didn't feel fast enough. I wanted to make a difference right now, and I had already been in connection with directors of the UN in different departments ever since I was in university. I've always networked with these people, and they've always taken a liking to me, and we're always discussing really profound things, and I thought maybe I can do something more interesting directly and still be in the conversations as a party like the United Nations. But instead it's just my personal confidence and meeting these people directly as I traveled the world and now started a business where I can make direct impact on my community whilst also maybe doing something for my capstone. My capstone project idea is basically double dip this idea of the business, which is a cultural preservation and sustainable tourism model for rural revitalization in Japan. And this model, I really have been basing it off of future ideals I have for the world and what kind of world I would want my children to live in. And what comes to mind is a self-regenerative, beautiful, clean energy, culturally vibrant, nutritious and warm lifestyle for me and my future family to experience. I've always had this goal of making everything sustainable. Now, the actual avenue to get there is really complicated, and I figured out that if I got an old house and property and I knew the wonderful experiences to be had in my community, I knew what the community needed, I knew that tourism, and in Japan especially, being as popular and amazing of a country it is, that would be a very great way to facilitate the right people coming to the right community, to stimulate it, to enjoy Japan whilst the community benefits too. And there's so many places in the world you can live and experience, but Japan, for me at least, is just such a safe and wonderful and beautiful country to really appreciate and become more integrated within. And I truly believe that by living in Japan, it makes people better people because they are more responsible and caring and less individualist. And if you prescribe to Japanese culture and society and really study the culture and try and integrate and assimilate into the culture, I think the world would be a better, safer place. That's why I'm in Japan. That's why I think that this idea of sustainable energy being rooted in a place that can model systems for other countries is the ideal avenue to go. So right now, the foundation for my capstone and the trajectory of my business is set. I have hosted dozens of incredible people in the past couple months. And honestly, the best way to understand what I'm doing on my business is to just read the testimonies and reviews on my website. And even on Google Maps, people write the most incredible things that I have ever heard. And I'm just doing something really fun and special out in the countryside, and people are able to integrate into this beautiful village that I live in and do fun things, and they are welcomed and we want them there, and we are experiencing the cultures and the nature and the food of the Japanese countryside together in a really productive way. So creating this channel that I have named Kirameki, a shining place or a place that people go to shine, was the first step to my grand scheme of sustainable domination. I'm just kidding. But now it exists and it's been around for a couple months. I'm just super, super excited to launch this phase 2 of my plan that I will also be introducing at Washington, D.C. in a couple days at my capstone proposal residency. And I'm just trying to figure out how to get an electric vehicle and install solar and start producing my own sustainable energy so I can limit my emissions and contribute to lower utility bills and cleaner energy in the whole neighborhood and eventually region of my place in Japan. This means I might be shifting priorities a little bit, and I really want to focus on my master's program and this idea. The sustainable tourism aspect is what is funding this opportunity. With the model of cultural preservation, the demographic of people that are interested in that actually also care about the future of the planet itself and creating an ideal future for all, because what's the reason to preserve culture if it's going to disappear anyways? So I found this really nice groove in what I'm doing where everything sort of double dips into each other and it all can work together and we can all work together. And I'm sorry if any of that sounded really convoluted and difficult to explain. I'm just really passionate about this project. I am doing presentations and seminars about it. It's just a lot to explain in a short YouTube video. And I want to move on a little bit to the updates of Japan's business manager visa and some of the crazy things that I have been going through. I just need to share this with you because if you are considering starting a business in Japan and you're watching this video for that purpose, I need to tell you what's going on. And as of right now, it is August 12th, 2025, and the most updated news to Japan's business manager visa, they are upping the price of the initial capital to be way higher than what it was when I applied. When I applied for my business manager visa, the requirement was 5 million yen, which is 30,000 US dollars, around that. And I actually saved all of that money from waitressing and working really hard. And I guess Japan maybe thought that was too easy. And they changed things like this month, or it's going to be implemented this year sometime. And if you're like me and you've already applied and you're already in the system, I don't have to meet that requirement because I already got in at the 5 million mark. Now it's at 20 million yen, which is I think that's 200,000 US dollars. I think that new entry point is so much harder than I experienced. And everything that I have, previously tried to help people with and consult people on has dramatically changed. It's a crazy development and a major change to anyone that was hoping to start a business in Japan. I hope that anyone that I consulted already applied and went through that process, because right now, infinitely harder, and it's no longer the easiest visa you can get in Japan, which is what someone commented about recently. Before this new requirement, jumping up to like 20 million yen, it was definitely way easier than so many other visas, and that is what I am in right now. I saved up 5 million yen. I am a sole proprietor, so I don't have to hire employees. I don't know what the situation is now. I think it's a potential reflection of the current political situation in Japan with the rise of Sanseito, the right-wing portion of Japan that is really against foreigners, which every person who is living in Japan, like me included, foreigners included, also understands why they are so frustrated, because I see people doing pull-ups on torii gates, and I see graffiti in Kyoto. I see what's going on with the streets of Japan, the safety, everything. They are just concerned about the state of Japanese etiquette and what their society has always been like and what it is changing to very rapidly right now. So I totally understand and empathize with them, and then at the same token I see the foreigners that are really upset because they have paid their taxes, and it goes way beyond that. It's way deeper than paying taxes, actually. It's about really caring about Japan and working in a system that they are welcome to because they have integrated with their family or their community, and they actually have a life in Japan now that is pure-hearted and not at all disruptive to Japanese culture and etiquette. So I think there has to be a distinction between, the immigrants that are coming to Japan that are working really hard to be here versus the immigrants and tourists in Japan who come here to basically take advantage of the beautiful country and say, wow, it's the cleanest, best country in the world, let me not respect it and ruin it for everybody else. I think that it's a very interesting situation going on politically in Japan, and for people wondering how I am feeling about the situation, and like many other foreigners that I know that live in Japan, we all can only stand by our own behavior and what we do in the country that makes us good to stay there. And that's the only thing I can hold myself to. And I know how hard this visa and the whole immigration process to Japan is. So because I know that it's so difficult, I think that I get more credit for working so hard to be in this country and actually contribute something positive to this country. So that's where I stand, where I think you just have to do your best. If you can do that, you suddenly fit into a category of Japanese respect. And I think if you don't put in that effort to really be kind and respectful to the country that is hosting you, I also think you shouldn't be in Japan. So I think that the whole political landscape right now is just so frustrated and overwhelmed by tourism and, people taking advantage of the system just for aesthetic, and they're not even really living here, and they're just promoting a romanticized version of Japan where they don't actually contribute anything, is a really frustrating thing for people to deal with in Japan. And it's probably the reason why they have upped the requirements for the business manager visa, because they want it to be harder for every single person to get here. So this is your reminder that one person's actions can really affect everybody else. And, same thing goes for my business, where people have come in the past couple months, most of them so amazing and good, and some of them taught me some really big lessons, and contracts had to be developed, things had to be changed. I had to protect my personal space and protect my livelihood and the things I care about because of the actions of someone. So I think that, same goes for any country. If you can trace down the history of why a certain relation is that way, even in terms of political science, you're able to better understand that the reason why something happened is because of this action. And understanding that in a historical context where, there's no beginning of time as we know it. It's like we've got so many problems in humanity in the world, and we have to be careful about what we do now and what we do in the future. And these steps that are happening right now are what changes the world each day. So that's my feelings on the political landscape of the world, and also just Japan's situation with tourists and foreigners. And I personally do feel unsettled by the realization that I might not be well received there openly anymore. And I think that with the rise of right-wing parties all over the world, people just become a bit more outspoken with what they like and what they don't like around them. And this used to be something a bit more hidden. It's not always been the case where people could outwardly say horrible, hateful, racist things and not get any consequences for that. And I think it's just become more normalized. And these are the raging 20s as we have it. And things appear to be more liberated and progressive and free. But in reality, we are regressing into the things that we knew were wrong, and now we're questioning all the things that we thought were wrong, but they're still wrong. We were educated and science developed and medicine developed for us to know what things are wrong and what things are bad. And, next thing you know, they're going to take back that cigarettes aren't killing people. They're going to take back that all these things don't really harm people, but they do harm people. And it's why that I'm trying to stay abreast in news articles and abreast in the progress and technology of the world. And I'm going to make a direct impact with the education that I have about sustainable energy, cultural preservation, doing something good for the world that's objectively positive, and utilize the resources that I have as best as I can. And this is my goal for my business and humanity. And yeah, I feel like I got really heated in this video, and I don't know who's gonna watch this and what you're gonna think about this crazy girl on the internet that is just working like a maniac, doing all these things that I think are good. And yeah, anyways, this was a really deep and wonderful opportunity that I have to connect with you and talk to you about current events and updates and answer some of the questions. And I hope that this video and these topics are interesting to you, and if you want me to continue, it really is awesome to hear feedback and also be encouraged to continue posting things like this and answering questions and being active on social media. Even though it is a very scary place, having a community like this reinforces my desire to actually contribute to this sphere of social media. So thank you for subscribing and liking the video and sharing your thoughts and being so genuine with me. And I promise to be genuine with you, and I'm not an influencer. I guess I am now a person with influence because I worked for it and I just use this social media as a tool. So that is how you can perceive me on this platform. And just have to thank everybody for supporting me on this journey and for being able to get on this algorithm that allows me to connect with so many interesting people. I hope that everybody has a beautiful day. I am going to be doing a lot of stuff on my computer, working on my website, answering emails. In my description, you can see all the ways to sort of contact me and get involved with this. I get a lot of messages, so bear with me as I prioritize what's in front of me, and I prioritize master's degree homework, because that is probably the most excruciating thing that I deal with right now. So that's where I'm at. I can't wait to have more conversations like this with you on YouTube and maybe other social media platforms. So yeah, maybe you will see some more videos from me soon. There's lots of things I want to share. Not everything's going to be like talking one-on-one like this, but some of them will be, and some of them will be maybe travel itinerary planning, maybe some behind the scenes of my business and all the things going on. And if you want to see what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. for my residency program, you can let me know. Maybe I will do a vlog there. I don't know. I'm just a girl. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night, wherever in the world you are.